Hey guys, welcome back to Alpha Project. I'm your host, Pranal Rama, alongside our fearless leader, Steven Vetter. And what are we calling you?
I think
Scarf Boy.
Scarf Boy Devin Jones.
Yeah.
Today we're talking about accountability and responsibility, kind of leading off from our last episode. Fuck all you hoes. Let's go. Let's get it going.
Okay, let's do it. What's the one thing? How do you stay accountable for yourself?
How do I stay accountable to myself? Lately, I haven't been.
Okay, is accountability to yourself the most important thing?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool.
I don't know, man.
There's
rushed
so
into
much
this and
editing.
I wasn't ready. No.
There's so much editing.
You gotta be ready.
Yeah. So to
I like
me,
how you just pass it on,
accountability-
just pass the buck. Didn't even say shit.
Cool, you. I didn't even say anything. I nodded.
Cool. What up?
That's alpha. Okay, you're up.
And you can tell he's beta. That scarf makes him beta as shit.
This is why we wear the scarf.
I find accountability, it's one of the most important things that you can do. And being accountable to yourself, it sets the bar. It sets the bar, in your own mind when you say, am I going to do this? Am I going to follow through? Am I going to respect myself enough to do what I'm going to say?
So we are talking about accountability and responsibility on the same
They're
show
related.
today. And they go hand in hand. Why?
Because when you are being responsible, right? Responsibility is a state of beingness. It is, am I or am I not, right? And it can show up in a bunch of different ways. Am I being responsible could mean, am I being, a good dude? Am I going out and getting drunk every night when I said I wasn't going to, right? Am I showing up to the gym 4 or 5 days a week, whatever you want to go, right? Yeah. Am I doing my homework? Am I studying? Am I committing to a relationship? The things that little voice in your head that says this is what you should do doesn't always mean that's what we do, right?
So I think that kind of begs the definition of what we call or what we consider accountability.
Should I pull up a definition of both accountability and responsibility?
I think to make the distinction, there's the definition of it by the Webster's Dictionary. On the other hand, a lot of this is a subtle nuance that most people don't pick up on and understand. So I had to make a huge distinction between to define what accountability was for me, in that there's things that, let's say you and me, we have a conversation and there's something left to me as a responsibility. Now I am held accountable to follow through with that thing, my responsibility, right? So there's the distinction that I make now in between, or for accountability, is in that situation, I'm accountable to you because I made a commitment to you. Had I not made it a commitment to you, I'm not accountable to anything. So who is measuring the level of accountability? And that's the important distinction that I think needs to be made.
Anybody can be.
Am I measuring that, or are you measuring that? And whose responsibility is it to measure that accountability?
Let's get right back to that. I am going to read the definitions just for the listeners, just so that they actually know exactly what we're talking about, because they are very similar.
Yep.
And I want people to actually understand the differences. So this is from, I just typed into Google, I said responsibility definition. So dictionary comes up. The state or fact of having a duty to deal with something or of having control over someone. Their example is a true leader takes responsibility for their team and helps them achieve their goals. That's responsibility. Accountability is the fact or condition of being accountable. Responsibility. So the example they have is their lack of accountability has corroded public respect. So they are almost interchangeable, but I think the definition comes in how we use or how we determine them in our mind and how we use them ourselves.
I like the definition that they use for responsibility there, and what they're saying is I'm responsible for myself and my team.
Right.
So bottom lining that, and what the intention is, what the goal is, what the communal objective is.
Right. So I would take my definition of responsibility and accountability differ in accountability is what I use for my personal life. Responsibility is what I have for anything outside of my life. I have responsibility to my son. I have responsibility to pay my bills, right? If it's something internalized, I have to be accountable to my actions. I'm responsible for my actions as well.
I like that.
But I like accountable to my actions more because it just speaks to me better.
Basically, we're talking about the same shit.
Exactly.
Use it how you want to.
Well, and so with accountability, there's this added extra thing. It's implied. There's a consequence to you not doing the thing. not following through on your responsibility.
Well, there's always a consequence. There's always a consequence to anything. Anything you set out to do, whether you do it, if you do it well, there's a consequence. It might be a positive consequence. If you choose to do it poorly, there's a consequence because, you didn't achieve whatever the perfect result was. If you do nothing, there's a consequence because you're still in the same fucking place. So there's always a consequence. Pick your consequences.
Right. Would you say that you as the person are responsible for setting out what the goals are and what your desired outcome is in order to achieve that?
Absolutely. Picture, I'm going to give two examples, okay? Corporate dude, right? You are responsible to show up to work on time. You're responsible to take care of your clients. You're responsible to make sure your team is performing, right? You're responsible to whoever you're reporting to, right? You have these set of rules that you are responsible to play by, right? And if you do well, that's great. You get rewarded. You might get more clients. You might get, bigger paychecks. You might move up, whatever that is. If you do poorly, expect not to be doing that. Expect to be responsible for less, right? Other example, an author, right? Lives in a hut on a beach somewhere. He is responsible to put words on paper, right? He's not responsible for people around him. More so, he's responsible for what he's doing. If he creates something, that's great. If he's not creating something, he's responsible for that outcome.
So what do we do with the burden of responsibility? And I'll use this as an example. If I am, let's say, responsible and accountable to show up to work on time, do my job, be at a certain performance, and my boss, doesn't agree with what I think that level of responsibility is, like, who sets those parameters?
Depending on the situation, I believe, like if it's in a job setting, then the boss would set that parameter, right?
Right.
He would say, you've done a great job here. I'm affording you this ability, or I'm affording you this privilege of having more responsibility, right? A lot of people, some people, I think most people in today's day and age, when they go to work, they want less responsibility, but they want all the privileges that come with, gaining respect in a company.
Status.
They want status in the company, but don't want the responsibility that comes with it.
I disagree with that. I think that there are people out there on both sides of the spectrum, and I think that is honestly the way it has been and will always continue to be. Mm-hmm. The people who do well with more responsibility are going to generate and manifest more responsibility in their life. So when you're saying, okay, it's it might be the employer or the boss or the supervisor that sets the level of responsibility. Mm-hmm. I also disagree with that because that expectation is there in the nature of the work that you're doing. Mm-hmm. And the people who are going to fill that role are going to be able to find themselves in those positions. The people that aren't going to make the cut aren't going to be there. And at that situation, at that point, it comes down to the person who's doing the work, who is able to say, exactly, this is what I choose to be responsible for.
And not only that, I mean, if we're gonna let's talk about just having a career real quick and get off accountability responsibility. If you're looking to advance in your career, learn the steps needed to that the position above you demands, what those responsibilities are, and learn how to do those yourself, so that when it comes time to fill that, you're already taking on these responsibilities. You're taking some stuff and doing some things, and you'll advance further in your career.
I can guarantee, as as somebody who's moved up very, very quickly in every different career path I've chosen to do.
Smart.
Do more than what you're paid for. Mm-hmm. Don't ask for recognition for it. Don't expect to be paid for it. Just shut up. Do more than what you are responsible to do, and good things will come.
Oh, so see, now we're in my realm.
Right. So would you argue then, if you are looking for accomplishment and success in your life, that it should be one of your goals to seek out more responsibility?
Absolutely.
Let's put it this way. So there's companies that we have, and when we first started them, they weren't making any money, right? I wasn't expecting to make any money from them for a first year, simply because there was back end that needed to be done. There's a whole bunch of things that need to be done before we could make a profit off it, right? But I knew that work had to go in and not get paid for it. That responsibility was still there, even if I wasn't getting paid for it, because I knew the payday was going to come. You almost have to think of it like that when you're working with somebody else as well, too, right?
And this is where I'm going to jump in. This would say where I would say I have to be more accountable,
right,
when there's no return.
Absolutely. Because if you can prove to not only everybody else around you, but yourself, that you're responsible enough to do those things without being told, without being forced, without anybody shoving it down your throat, you can actually research what you need to do, look up the tips and tricks and learn exactly what you need to do, then you're going to be better off in the future.
Absolutely.
In every aspect you're in, right? Whether
you're going to get your reps in.
Yeah, exactly.
You're going to figure out what works, what doesn't work. You're going to force yourself, literally, you're going to have to force yourself some days to get out of bed, when everything in your world says, this isn't working, I haven't seen a return yet, this is not happening, I don't want to do this, I don't want to get up. When you get up on those days and still go do the thing, because you know if I keep doing the thing, at some point, it will work, that's accountability.
I want you to go in on this, because you and I had a little bit of a conversation a few months back where we had this conversation about, fuck this, I'm not doing this anymore, we're not doing this. Right? But you didn't have that conversation with me, you had it with yourself. So can you just elaborate on that a little bit? You know what I'm speaking of.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I think this is actually the thing that I've been dancing around for the whole conversation so far is there is a perception or a paradigm that you put yourself in when you set out to do something. And inside of that paradigm, there's expected outcomes, there's actions that you're supposed to take to get there. And when you start going through the shit and you're in the mud, there is a point in time where you go, is it worth it? Is it worth the work that I'm doing and the stress that it's adding to my body and the way that I'm beating myself up constantly because I'm not even meeting my own expectation of what I thought was going to happen. And so that seeking of responsibility, the seeking of accountability has led to a place of breakdown where it was like, fuck, this is too much for me to handle. There's all this shit going on and I don't think I'm capable of it. And so now I'm forced to question, like, am I the person that I thought I was? And in all of that, the conversation ended up, and I don't know, I think it's just because I'm really good at self-dialogue and self-awareness. So the conversation for me went from, fuck, this is really hard, I want to give up, I hate everything, fuck Parnell, fuck Steve, fuck everybody, I'm out, right? That whole, and then it was like, you know, the fucking thing is like the closer I get to achieving any measurable success in my pursuit of my goals and dreams and accomplishments and whatever else, the closer I get, the more I realize why only 1% of people make it.
It's hard.
And so I started calling and referencing the things that, like when you said, even if you wake up today and you don't fucking feel like doing it, do it anyways. And I am an avid practitioner of that. There are days when, dude, I could sleep all fucking day, get stoned and play video games and not give a single fuck and I'm good. But I choose not to do that, and instead I choose to sit in front of the computer until I'm fucking inspired enough to take the action that I need to take. And that happens with a lot of that dialogue. And so I start calling those actions and those days the 1% days, or the 1% thing. Today I'm gonna do the 1% thing, the thing that nobody else would do in this situation. Because most people give up. And that's why there's only 1% of people that make it.
Right.
So if it's only the 1% of people that make it and I want to be a part of that 1% community, I got to do the 1% shit.
You know what?
So that's the thing that I'm talking about.
And without that conversation that you and I had about that 3 months ago, I probably wouldn't be here tonight, right? We all know I'm going through some things right now, and it was tough for me to even be like, I'm going to go, I'm going to go. I literally had to phoned my guy, and I was like, listen, can you come pick me up? Because if you're driving, then I know I can't just leave early. I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Right? So my way of recognizing it or dealing with it was a little different, because if my car was here, if my vehicle was here, I'd be gone already. Right? But I know I have to be here. I know I have to do this. I know I have to not just suck it up, but I have to perform. This has to be a thing. I have to be here, and I have to be passionate about what I'm doing.
And you might only be at 50, 60, 70% today.
But
compared to your 100% days.
Exactly.
But 50% is still fucking way better than zero.
Exactly.
For sure.
And like I said, I would be at zero right now if it wasn't for me thinking, okay, who can I call? What can I do? How can I get there?
Yeah.
Right? It's all about doing that extra 1%, right? If I didn't make a call and I just met you guys up here, I probably would have texted halfway and be like, nah, I'm not coming.
And that requires a level of, and I'm calling it radical because it's so fucking way outside the scope of normal. Radical self-awareness. That deep level of just knowing who you are, what you're capable of, how you show up, even on your 50% days.
Is that what it was?
And then like just knowing, you know what? I can do it, and I should do it, and I will do it. Oh, look, I'm doing it.
Radical self-actualization.
Yeah,
and I'm going to double down on that too, because honestly, a little piece of just kudos, right, to you is recognizing that you had to show up for this thing. You then recognized that given you were left to your own devices, you would bail. right? And so you eliminated your exits.
Absolutely.
So you made a conscious choice to say, I'm taking away all of the points where I could dip early.
Right. There was a time even last night where I gave up. You know, mate, I wasn't strong to what I had in my head, and I just gave up last night, right? And it was, you know, I mean, I'm looking back on that now, and I'm going, why the fuck did I do it? Why? Right? And for me, it's never about, you know, what am I doing to myself? It's always about how am I forwarding my life in a way that's helpful for others, right? So if I'm looking at it like that and not looking at my own self, like I should be at home resting, I should be getting over what I'm getting over, and I should be doing the things for my mental health. But my mentality is so strong that I can be like, okay, I should be here because I made a commitment here.
Your responsibility
I have a
is to be
responsibility here, and I have to be accountable here, right? I made the commitment, so I have to fulfill that.
So play that out then. On the other hand, on the other side of the coin, what would it look like if you weren't accountable to the responsibility? And bear in mind too,
okay,
this is a responsibility you gave yourself when you signed up. You know what I mean?
So
like we all decided mutually, this is our responsibility. Rain, sunshine,
so let's
whatever.
take this to the other end, the other side of the scope, right?
Yeah.
The other side of the scope is I'm at home. You guys are having a great conversation. I miss out on that conversation. Or maybe you guys can't even record because you need the third person, right? That looks like, in my head, it looks like a week from now, you guys are having a conversation over that week and saying, hey, you know, we really don't need Pernell because, you know, he's not going to be accountable. He's never showing up. He's not here, even if it was just the one time I missed, right? In my head, I'm going, if I miss one day, that is an excuse for anybody to say he's not doing what he said he was going to do. And for me to not stay true to my word would kill me.
So you set a big consequence for that accountability.
Absolutely.
That big consequence being that if you don't show up and do the things you said you're doing, you're actually hurting yourself, and you recognize that that is
nobody changes
for yourself.
Nobody changes anything in life until the pain outweighs the happiness, right? Or outweighs the complacency.
For sure.
Right?
The pain of change has to be less than the pain of remaining the same.
Who said that? Where'd you pull that
Has
from?
to be more.
Anthony Robbins?
Tony Robbins, you owe me $100.
Son of a bitch!
Right into that. I was like patiently waiting.
Play back the tapes.
Man, you walked right into that. It's so true though. And honestly, I mean, for me, I know when I am not being responsible because it shows up. I hide. You know, I go home, the phone goes off, I start a new season, or, you know, you pick like a show like Game of Thrones, you're like, I have, you know, 184 hours of TV to watch, and I'm choosing not to pay attention to the things that I should be doing. Or, you know, you go and you pick up a bottle on the way home, right? I don't drink during the week at home.
So
I know I'm hiding. If I go home like, oh, I'm going to have a couple beers, and then that's a quick recognition to say, what are you running away from right now?
Yeah, what are you hiding from? That's the crazy thing, because nobody's gonna come after you.
You know what? That's the
it's
thing.
Not like me and Parnell will show up at your house and be like, Steve, what the
Bullshit,
fuck?
I fucking won't. You don't show up, I'm coming for you.
99% of the, you know, any socials, they wouldn't. They just wouldn't. So
because it's not discussed about, and there is a lack of holding your bros accountable.
There's a huge misstep that males make, right? And that is that,
oh, he's cool.
Yeah, he's
He'll
good.
be all right.
You've had we can even go to like going out and having a few drinks at the bar, right? Oh, you've had a few drinks. I'm good to drive. Okay, cool, bro. See ya. Right? It seems trivial for guys that grew up in an era where it was like you have 2-3 drinks, you can still drive, right? Whereas now we know the statistics behind it. Statistics behind it. We know that, I like that. We know the titties behind it, and if we're to look at it and be responsible, if I'm going to be responsible to you or accountable to you, the same way you're accountable to me, it's my responsibility to tell you, hey, listen, man, you've had a few drinks. Here's an Uber. I'll drive you. We'll grab your car in the morning. Whatever it is, we could take it from there all the way to, again, back to what's going on in my life, which is fucking stupid. You know, people calling me every 2-3 hours, making sure I'm good, right? Just because of they know what the situation going on, right? There's a different mindset now when it comes to males, especially since this whole COVID thing happened, and you got everybody isolated, and everybody's going through the same mental distress, right? Or the same the same shit happening at work, not having a job, not having money. So everybody knows the stresses, and stresses are piling on. So we all have to try and check in on each other. And we were talking about this before we started recording on how we bond is by picking on each other. Right. And there's almost been a shift where we're still going to do that in person. But when it comes to something serious now, I mean, I remember back in the 90s, it was like somebody was going through something serious. Shut the fuck up, man.
Stop being a pussy.
Nut up, man. Stop being a pussy. Right? Now it's, yo, you good, bro?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, are you sure you're good?
Is that because just collectively as a society we're all waking up to this thing that we should all be
more conscious of
a little more conscious to? Is that the option? Or is it perhaps that we're just getting a little bit older and we're starting to fucking realize how important that actually is?
I was thinking about this, and I don't think it's because we're getting older.
Okay.
Because I know teenagers, 17, 18, 19-year-olds, that don't act anything like what I acted.
They're way more open.
Advanced.
They're way chiller.
So
yeah.
open. And this is the whole. We're not going to get into the whole thing I want to talk about. Edit this whole piece out.
Well, now you let it on like that.
Not going there.
We already made our
podcast.
$100 from today. I mean, it's a giant W in my mind.
You're right. So that's the problem with all these gender abnormalities, right? You're having women or feminists, male feminists. You're having parents that are saying we're not going to gender our child. You know, there's different traits that males and females have.
Okay, so barring the very obvious virtue signaling collection of those people,
right? There's a more openness because it's more acceptable to have female traits if you're a male and male traits if you're a female, right? And that comes with emotion and feelings, and it's almost like cross
an emotional maturity.
Can we look past that and just say emotions are emotions, and there doesn't need to be a differentiation between feminine and masculine emotions? Emotions are emotions. People feel and experience things.
I think the only
differentiating factor.
Thank you. The only differentiating factor we have to make in this is that how those emotions are expressed are completely different.
Historically have been completely different.
But I would argue
does that mean that has to, by definition, be a masculine or a feminine thing?
No, not at all. But I'm saying that they're just expressed differently, right? Like males, if we get angry, most males, from my experience, it comes out in anger, in rage, and they get loud and yell, right?
And see, that's one thing that needs
that's
to...
what we've been programmed
right,
to do.
Exactly. Or,
for sure.
Or if women get angry, either they'll get really upset and mad and yell, or they'll walk away. But both genders will do it, right? It's just 80% of women will get mad and walk away, and 80% of males will get mad and start yelling.
And ultimately, you have a choice when you get heated, when you get triggered. I heard actually something the other day, my buddy told me this. He's like, I got fucking tilted over this. I'm like, what the fuck does tilted mean? I like
that.
I'm using it. Yeah. I use tilted.
You heard it here first.
And tilted. So when you get tilted over something, you can choose how to handle it. And you're right. Historically, it has been, masculine to get angry, throw fits. That's where the negativity around masculinity comes from, is because, we have, dictators and overlords and violence and, we rape and pillage, and that's what it is.
So the clinical literature going back centuries has actually outlined how if you were to place a bet on men or women being more violent in a heated feeling of anger, sense of anger, and you were to bet on men, you would only be right 60% of the time. And the thing is it's because we measure violence incorrectly. The violence isn't necessarily physical. See, females and women,
emotional.
Again, historically speaking, and just through the literature, women tend to be violent more emotionally and more socially, where men tend to be more violent physically and outwardly. And that is because there is a very clear biological difference in the way we're wired and the way we work.
When we get
men
upset,
are typically
mad.
more interested in things because things elevate our status. Women are more interested in people because people elevate their status. And so this is an evolutionary thing because females and males differed in physical strength.
Well, men had to fight off saber-toothed tigers.
Women had to.
I'd fight a saber-toothed tiger for you.
Cool, bro.
Right? See, that's a good friend.
You're on your own. I'm running, motherfucker.
But so to survive, historically speaking, women, because they were less physically strong, needed to have a larger social circle to protect them, where men just needed to be stronger. And so that's where men over time and through evolution became more physical, and females became more social. And that's just that's like a scientific clinical
Just a
studies
biological difference,
and literatures as so to argue the feminine and masculine nature of the way that we interpret our feelings isn't far off, but it's not entirely correct. Now, I would assert, based on my own personal experiences, I grew up very feminine, and that's because I spent a lot of my time with women.
We can tell, bro.
So I was a little bit more in tune and intuitive when it came to social cues and when it came to interacting in that way. Now, I wasn't proficient in it by any measure. I really didn't know what the fuck I was doing, because I was stuck in this paradigm that men fit in this box, and if you don't fit in that box, you're not a man. And so I didn't fit in that box. I wasn't big and burly and muscly with a fucking beard and shit. And although I'm literally the definition of a cowboy.
Did you see how he took some of your traits and some of my traits and just blended the two? We're his perfect man.
Right? That's why I hang out with you guys. I was by definition a cowboy. I grew up on a farm. We rose horses. Am I saying that right? Raised horses. We broke and sold horses. We rescued them from meat markets. I fucking baled hay and I did all the shit. I mucked stalls.
And you still look like that?
Yeah. So here's the thing: is I still fancied fashion and other things that most men didn't. Right? And because of that, I got labeled gay. I got called a faggot my whole entire life. And so because I didn't fit in this box, oddly enough, I can relate to gender definition in the new way that we all communicate about what gender definition is. This is man, this is woman. And I'm like, I'm kind of not either one, because I'm a little bit whatever. But on the same side, I can I'll bet money that I could chop a tree down better than both of you guys. So
I don't know, bro.
First of all, let me explain something to you, okay?
It's all about leverage. That's all I'm saying.
I grew up on a farm too. I baled hay every goddamn summer, man. I rode cut horses for fucking livestock. Let me tell you something about being a cowboy.
Right?
But here's the thing.
Yeehaw, motherfuckers.
See, you grew up more feminine, right? So you have this you have this passive aggressive way about you.
Right.
That is a very female trait. Right. Men that are passive aggressive, to me, haven't really. Let me put this in a way that's correct, because I don't think you're that now. You used to be passive aggressive. Now you're very elegant in how you speak the truth and what's going on with you, right?
Right.
But men that act passive aggressive are, I think those are the guys that are serial killers.
Because you don't know how to handle what you're going through. You don't know how to handle those emotions when they come up, and you lash out, do something, you go into, whatever, blind rage. I don't know.
Because you have this image of what you're supposed to be, and then you have this image of actually who you are. And they don't mesh.
So why this is important to understand and to kind of bring it back to the point is that radical sense of self-awareness, that true identifying of yourself and how you show up in the world requires a level of responsibility. It requires a level of accountability. It requires you to take steps to show up in the world the way that you perceive yourself. Because as I've said before, you're not who you think you are. Mm-hmm. You're not who I think you are. Mm-hmm. You are who you think I think you are. So you assign what my thoughts of you are in your own mind. And there's an incongruence, because without that radical sense of self-awareness, without transparency, communication, accountability, you're never actually going to know how I think about you, because I could just never, ever, in an entire relationship, tell you how I think about you, right?
Yeah, but
you have to trust that I share with you in a certain way. So the only person now that can be held accountable for that is yourself. So if you say, I am this guy, but the actions of saying I'm this guy don't match you saying I'm this guy.
Jesus.
There's an incongruence, right?
You know what's funny about that is on our way up here, John was driving, my buddy called me, and I literally said those words on the phone. I said, the guy that I talk about, who I am on the podcast, is who I am. Yeah. That's the guy I am. The reason I say the things and the reason I wrote the thing, because we were talking about this Facebook post I posted, like the reason I put it that way and I structured it the exact way I structured it is because I am that guy. Right? I know you're calling me out of concern because you don't think it was the right thing to do, but look at the word structure and look exactly what I did. You'll understand that it matches me perfectly. And he goes, you know what? You're fucking right. Right? Like you would.
And he was trying to, and I'm only speculating here, but he was trying to cast his perspective onto you.
Right, because he had, this exact thing had happened to him, and he almost did the same thing, but he went a little more vile.
Right.
So he went more the negative, right?
Well, listen, if you're going to be a shit talker, own it. Because people are going to call you on it. Oh, you're not really that mean in real life. Why are you doing that? Or maybe you're trying to be nice in real life, but you are secretly a shit talker, and there's an inauthentic.
Well, this post was about the accountability and responsibility of things that had happened, right? And how I'm taking responsibility for this thing, right?
Right.
And you know, a lot of people took it as I was looking for sympathy. They all the comments were, you know, I'm sorry to hear about all this shit, right? I didn't respond to any of them. I didn't like any of them. I didn't comment on any of them except for the one. It doesn't matter, but I didn't respond to him because I literally put in the post. I said, this post is for me. So when it pops up in a year, I can see how far I've come.
Yes.
Right? And
so you're intentionally, maybe you knew or you didn't know, and I'm going to argue you didn't know, that you were intentionally setting out a desired outcome.
Yeah.
And now in a year from now, you're going to measure that outcome.
Most people
and I
don't
would
get
assert that is your responsibility to create.
Absolutely.
And then manifest.
And that's the issue.
And that's where the accountability comes from.
I thought it was perfectly clear what I was doing.
Right.
Right? I thought in my mind, it was 100% right. I knew exactly what I was doing, and everybody else will get it.
That's not always the way it works.
Right? So when I put it out there, it makes 100% sense to me, and the people that are on the level I'm on will get it.
Yeah.
Right? They'll understand. And the people that maybe have a little bit of self-growth to do will question it or come back to it later or figure it out as they go, right? And they'll question things, and I'll get phone calls about, hey, why'd you put that up, right? And to me, it was 100% clear. This isn't for nobody else but for me because I needed a reminder.
Well, and whether or not you like to admit it, you are a role model to somebody somewhere. Somebody looks up to you because you're a very public person, right? Somebody somewhere looks up to you, and maybe those people are testing.
One quick second. Don't look up to me. I'm not your role model. Trust me.
I had this conversation with somebody.
Purnell is actually, you know what, we haven't known each other as long as you guys have, for sure. You have, you're definitely somebody who speaks the truth, you know, and whether that is physical, real truth, factual truth, or if it's something that you just believe in, you speak the truth, and that is a very admirable thing. And now I'm going to also give kudos. I don't know why I'm in such a good mood today.
Yeah, it's a jacket, man. It's the Panther.
Damn.
I got the Black Panther. Show that Panther.
That's sick.
Stand up and
That's
show the
sick.
camera the fucking Panther, baby. That's fucking boss.
And I'm gonna give Devin some kudos on this too, because honestly, that monologue that you did, you know, you were open, you were vulnerable, you were trusting, right? You were out there and saying, you know, that must have been a shitty thing to go through.
Let me pile on a little bit. How come every episode you get a monologue?
I'm just following the leader.
That's him. Don't look at me.
We're all leaders.
You're supposed to point to him. We're all leaders. I'm supposed to point to you. You're supposed to point
And
to
honestly,
him.
there's a bunch of things, a bunch of really killer points that you guys were making there. When you're doing something that is out of sync with how you normally show up, you're going to get some feedback. You're going to have someone say, that doesn't sound like you, or are you okay, or you know, what's going on, or holy shit, right? You'll get some sort of feedback when you're doing something that is not congruent with how you normally show up. So if I choose to act a certain way, right? If it is in sync with how I'm normally showing up, that would, based on results, I am being congruent with me. Now, the question where you need to be asking is, if you're constantly getting mixed signals, mixed feedback, right? And it's difficult to really recognize how you're showing up consistently, there's a good chance that you need to have a conversation with yourself that says, what's important to me? Who am I? Because if some days you are, super pissed off, if there's other days, you're super lazy, or there's other days, you're really happy, you're bouncing all over the place, there's often a conversation that needs to happen because you're doing things, you're choosing to be out of sync with something. Either you're ignoring something, you're not being open with yourself, you're not doing something where, maybe you can develop some self-awareness, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that was a good point. Sorry to cut you off.
Go ahead.
Yeah, when I'm going to take it back to what you were saying about how people, how'd you say it was? My version of you.
You're not who you think you
Right.
are. You're not who I think you are. You are who you think I think you are.
Right. Okay, so to that point, because I usually talk a bunch of shit, right? When I was vulnerable in this post I posted, it was, wait a second. People are like,
That's not normal.
right?
Yeah.
But in my head, like I was saying, because
Completely normal.
it's completely normal because I'm vulnerable all the time. It's just I'm not usually public with it, right? But I wanted to show that even though I'm going through a crazy hard time, right, that I'm still going to be a leader, and I'm still going to show you how a leader should get through these tough times, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to turn to substance. Lead by example, right? I'm not going to go to the substances. Except I had a couple of drinks, right? I'm not going to go to substance abuse. I'm not going to go back into my dark hole, right? I'm not going to shy away from it, right? I'm going to face it head on. And
you're standing
and
at the
feel it
precipice of it,
and
with
walk
the
through
fucking
it.
dragon
I'm gonna
breathing down your neck,
and I'm going to be accountable.
And you're recognizing this is it.
And you know what? How
My
many? I'm
choice
going to
next.
guarantee. I'm going to guarantee that maybe 10 years ago might not have been the outcome that you chose to do.
Absolutely not.
I know for me personally, I'm getting older and going through more tough shit. It gets easier. You recognize, okay, this shit sucks right now.
Or you've been through it
it's
before.
better
You've been through
when
it. You're
you
like, you know what?
stand
I know
up
how to
and you
handle it.
take it and you're good. And you say, okay, this is what's going to happen.
It's like whenever I was like doing dumb shit and getting in trouble, my dad was like, listen, if you don't tell me the whole fucking truth, I'm not going to be able to help you, even if I could help you. You know what I mean? So just do the hard thing, say the whole thing, let's get it out there, and then we'll fucking deal with it. But if you only give me half of it, we can't deal with the whole thing.
Devin, do you have any good, like really good friendships where your buddies do not know the whole story about shit that happens?
No. I actually don't have relationships with anybody who don't get the full, authentic version of myself.
Do you have any like good, solid bros that you have not been completely like open and said the entire whole shit of all the dumb shit you guys did together?
No, all my friends know everything I've gone through, but that's because I'm a public person and everybody knows it.
I think it's very safe to say, I mean, for me too, my buddies, like the true like good buddies, know all the dumb shit. All the dumb shit that we do. And they make fun of me for it, and you roll with it. And that's how you develop good friendships.
The transparency of it has you show up authentic to yourself.
For sure.
And it eliminates that need to hide shit. And when I don't have to hide shit, I don't have anything to worry
Then
about.
you're not thinking about it, because creating lies, oh, this is what I'm going to disclose, this is what I'm not going to disclose, automatically puts you into a state where you're having to consciously make decisions and navigate conversations, versus when you can just communicate. And people can pick up, because if I'm communicating with you inauthentically, you're going to look at me and you're going to say something's up.
This is not what's going on. That guy he'll say whatever the fuck is in his head, and then it's out, and he's like, I don't give a fuck.
So here's the thing. I used to sell cocaine, right? I was a drug dealer for 6 years of my life, right? Made literally millions of dollars, right? And it was all taken away from me, right? I went to jail, did my time. Now, during that time that I was dealing, that's all it was there was this facade. There was this walled off person that was one person with one person and another completely different with somebody else, right? That's because there was a bunch of acquaintances, friends, people you knew, whatever, that you're meeting all the time, right?
There's always a play.
There's always something happening, right? So, and here's what I realized. When I was arrested, it was 4 years of my life taken away, right? And I realized that when I got arrested, there was nobody there for me. Not one person. My dad bailed me out of jail. My mother was the one I had to move in with, according to the judge, right? So literally myself. And I had to think to myself, how come all these people I thought were my friends aren't there with me anymore? Am I being true to myself? Am I being authentic? Am I being accountable? Am I being the person that I say I am, right? That's accountability. Being the fucking person you say you are, right? If you say you're going to do something, you get up and fucking do it. So when I was on house arrest for the last part, I said, you know what? I was 310 pounds. I said, you know what? I'm going to lose this fucking weight. The judge gave me an hour to go to the gym every day. I said, fuck that. If I can't go anywhere else, I'm going to go running outside, because at least I can fucking get out, right? I'd go running. I think I talked about this before. I couldn't run.
Every episode.
Every episode. Yeah.
Every single one.
So it's good. Get it to their fucking heads. But it's like, that's what I would do. I would be responsible for, even if I worked 12, 14 hours that day, I would go for a run at 9 o'clock at night. Right? Because I was accountable and I was responsible to myself.
Who benefited from you holding yourself accountable?
Me. There's the only person that does.
And that's always the way it works. And that's how you know you're doing the right things. And the more accountable you are to yourself, the more true to your word. I love that definition that you just used. Love that. It's very good. The more you are being responsible for yourself. the more responsibility is going to naturally be given to you. Whether that is more relationships, whether that is more responsibility at work,
Those
whether
are the
that is more work.
doors of opportunity
It's
opening up
real,
for you,
right?
right?
It's so fucking real. And it's honestly, if you want to take it to the next level, once you are doing the thing that you said you're going to do, I mean, honestly, my workout this morning, I did half of it.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that because I had a choice I didn't want to do any of it. I didn't fucking want to do anything. Today was a day.
50% is better than zero.
Today was a day I woke up and I'm like, fuck, I don't want to move. I just want to stay in bed until the absolute last minute. However, I still got up. I still worked out. I did what I needed to do. I did 50% of what I would have liked to do.
Yeah.
However, still showing up and doing it is what it takes. Now, if you want to go further and you want to take it to that next level where you're talking about the 1%, is doing what you're saying you're going to do and then doing one more set. You know, if it's at the gym, I did my workout, I'm going to do one more set.
Yeah.
Right? If it's, if you're writing a book, I wrote what I needed to do and I'm going to write another page.
Yeah, that's
Right?
staying late after work. That's the extra hour of overtime.
Showing up first and
you know-
being the last person to leave. I own my company now. I'm the first person there. I'm the last one to leave.
Yeah,
Most days.
and that gives you something more than had you had any alternative.
I'm in the position I'm in now because I've done that consistently. And there were lots of times throughout my life where I would show up first, be the last one to leave. You know, when I was bartending, you pick up extra shifts, you do what you're going to do, and you don't get recognition for it. You don't get paid for it. Nobody's going to come around and say, "Oh, great work, Steve." That doesn't exist. If that's what you're chasing, it does not exist.
There's a great saying that says, I demand more of myself than anybody else could ever possibly imagine, which means nobody else could put any more pressure on me than I put on myself. I demand more. Guess who said it?
Podcast Pete.
No. Guess who said it? Your man.
Gary Vaynerchuk.
Not that one.
I'm not losing another.
You lost already. You lost already.
Yes, that was Tony Robbins, right? And that was, if you take on something and you say, I'm going to do the best at this, of all the ability I have, I'm going to put all that into this. I'm going to put everything into this. That's what you're accountable for, right? That's the demand you have on yourself. That's what your expectations are of yourself. If you hold yourself to lower expectations, that's what the world's going to give you.
So this is something I think we're going to dive into this a little bit more in the next episode. When it comes to goal setting, that's a motto that I've always adopted. Is I say, this is what I'd like to achieve, right? Now, I know that in order to achieve this target, right, in whatever area of my life that is, I know it's going to take these steps. I know it's going to need to play out like this, and this is going to have to get a little stroke of luck here. I'm going to have to show up, 100% all the time. Right? Now, instead of doing that, I look at it and I say, okay, this is what I'd like to achieve. I double it. And I look at that and I say, holy fuck. Okay, to achieve this doubled version of what I'd like to achieve, how do I need to show up? And then your brain starts kicking into high gear. And then you're like, I need to get up 2 hours earlier because I need 2 extra hours in the day.
Yep.
I need to meet this type of person. I need to create this. I need to show up 100%.
And it gets deeper than that. It gets to the point where you're like, you know what? I need to be on a minute by minute schedule.
Absolutely.
Right? You're not wasting any fucking minutes in the day.
And when you do that, your brain, your whole body just goes into vibration overdrive mode because you just set a target that was so fucking unrealistic that you need to just rein it in, dial it in.
Ounce.
You need everything. And honestly,
everything needs to work perfectly.
Honestly, guess what? Most of the time when I do that, I don't achieve that goal. However,
when you
I
do,
have smashed through the initial plateau.
When you
smashed through.
When you do, you go.
Because
Yes.
honestly, 80% of 100 is way more than 100% of 50.
Well, yeah.
Wait,
Oh,
what?
man.
Say it again?
80%,
That was good. It took me a second too.
80% of 100 is way more than 100% of 50.
I like it. It's 30% more.
30% more.
So
that's
let's set up-
almost double.
No, it's
Right.
not.
Almost.
No, it's not.
Almost. 1.8%, 1.7%.
1.65%.
Get out of here.
Listen.
Go for a run.
Sold cocaine for 6 years.
And change your socks.
Fuck yeah! I love my socks. Listen, are we almost done for this?
Yeah, so I just want to set up a hypothetical here because I think that we've been pointing at something here the whole time, and I would really love for anybody that's watching this that's in the hypothetical I'm about to set up to understand the benefit of following through on something like
this hypothetical is not going to be a hypothetical, right?
So
This
let's
is
say
true,
you're
right?
with a group of friends who are underachievers, and I'm trying to be, kind to whoever
Who are
really
losers.
still loves your friends, right? And, okay, so by the definition, people who consistently lose at all the things they're doing, or people who consistently win at things you're doing. Let's say you're in the other pot. Let's say you're in that group of friends that are underachievers and not doing much with their lives, and you want to. Now, here's the thing. When you are in that friend group or you're in that social circle, you're
How do you know if you're in
authentic
that
to-
friend group?
You know. You just know.
You know.
Because I knew.
You know.
I knew.
I
There
knew.
wasn't,
I knew.
There
When I
wasn't,
was there, I
there
knew.
wasn't a time in my life where I wasn't like, maybe these aren't the right people I should be hanging with. Like, you know. And if you're that person that knows, you're gonna
I hate that you got to this before I did.
you're
by
gonna
the way.
have to you're gonna have to overcome this one challenge, and this challenge is okay. I am this to this group of people, and when I start showing up any different than this to this group of people, I'm inauthentic. And here's where imposter syndrome kicks in: is I'm not that person. But I'm not that person either. But I want to be that person, and I don't want to be this person. So I'm going to try to pursue this. But then the people that I'm with, I'm going to be externally seeking the validation. The fucking problem is that any time you seek that external validation, you're relying on somebody else to fill your cup rather than validating yourself and filling your own cup, which we've already covered. So the thing is how do you deal
Is it
with...
like 2 girls, 1 cup?
Not that much. How do you overcome that inauthenticity barrier inside of this friend group when you're trying to make that shift into the version of yourself that you know you are, you know you want to be, you know that have the potential to become, but there's that barrier, the imposter syndrome. How do you
Parnell already
overcome
gave
that?
us the answer to this earlier.
Yeah.
And the answer is the exact same reason with if you feel like you're drinking too much or you're into some other substances. What's the first step? You pour it out. You remove your exits, right? When you had to show up for that event and you knew you would bail, you got someone else to drive you. You recognize where your weak points are and remove them. And in that situation, Devin, if you are recognizing that I am not in the right group of people because this is not who I am and I need to be with this people, wake the fuck up.
I think we've all...
It's time to get rid of that circle. And you do that by just not answering the phone, or you just say, hey, you know what, I'm done for a bit.
You know what? I think we've all actually said this before. I know I have, right? If you have 5 friends that are losers, you're the 6th. If you have 5 friends that are winners, you're the 6th winner. If you have 5 friends that are going to go to college, university, or that have $100,000 or $200,000, $500,000 paying jobs a year, you're going to be that 6th person. Who you associate with and how you hold yourself within that group means more to your livelihood than anything else. Right? If you are authentic in who you are in a group of people that are overachievers or that want to overachieve, you can't lose because that team will drag each other up the hill. If you are a leader in a group of losers, it's hard to drag 5 losers when you're the only one pulling.
Absolutely. And this is the other thing to pay attention to when you make those shifts, right? And I hope everybody, listening to this does choose to make shifts, positive shifts, whatever that looks like in your own life. When you make positive change, it's not going to happen right away. And when you start hanging out with people who are doing better than you, they have spent the last year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, right, doing the small things to get them where they are today.
And that's not people that act better than you. Those are people that are just doing shit that are giving them better results
because you're never
than the ones
going
you're
to
getting.
hear criticism from somebody doing more than you.
Let's go back to imposter syndrome for a second, just before we leave here, guys. So if people are in that group of losers, and you want to make the shift, and you're having this crisis of confidence in yourself, and you're saying, I want to be there, but I feel like I'm not that person. What are the steps that they need to do to be accountable and responsible to themselves for them getting to that next level?
You want to go first?
Yeah, I'm going to go with what Devin just said for the whole episode. Is it starts with recognizing that there is something that's out of sync, right? Step 2, it gets so easy for me if I write it down and I say, this is where I want to be, right? And I write out the perfect, 100% perfect dream scenario. Describe it in as much detail as possible.
Do you do the dream board?
I have, I don't know. I have a goal board. It's on. I'm not into that. Like I don't know. I have my goals posted.
I got on my lock
Yeah.
screen on my phone.
Yeah.
Is a picture of that my son drew of outer space. And that's because one day I want to go to outer space with my kid. On my
Mine's
library,
that
my home
sexy
screen
bitch.
on my computers, all my computers is like the thing that I want, like a penthouse suite, or a picture of a beach house. And those are the things, they remind me of, like, that's the life that I want to acquire. And that means I'm going to have to take the steps to get me there. But they serve as reminders, triggers, to be like, fuck, am I doing the things that are going to get me there? Am I doing the things I need to do today to do that?
So what's going to happen, and you're right, I have my goals written on my wall, and when I achieve them, I cross them off. And that feels very good. And so when I'm getting clear and describing that perfect end result, that perfect situation, go into as much detail as possible. I describe what it looks like, what it feels like, how I'm experiencing, what it feels like. What does that perfect relationship with that perfect girl feel like, right? What kind of car am I driving, right? What does my house look like in detail? How I'm feeling walking into that house at the end of the day, right? And then reading that, I go to the next page and I say, in order to achieve this, who do I need to be?
Right.
Who do I need to be? How do I need to show up? And then I take that list of who I need to be to achieve these type of things, and I get really real, and I write another list about what I'm doing right now. And I pick the things that don't line up, and I say, that needs to go. That needs to go. I need to add this trait. I need to add this. And then you make it happen from there.
So you're constantly writing a list of things out and then
not constantly. I do it at least
pinging.
Once every 6 months.
Yeah. So you look at the things that you put down there, and you just constantly ping.
And you do it, and honestly,
am I doing it? Am I doing it? Yes.
Constantly checking in. And as you're doing it, you're going to generate momentum. I generated momentum. It wasn't, honestly, there have been times in my life when, I'm building, growing, I'm going through the shit, maybe made a career change, right? There's been times you go to the grocery store and I didn't have money to pay for groceries, right? You put food back on the shelf, right? And that's a weird fucking spot to be in, right? And when you go through difficult situations, breakups, being broke, right? Tough shit to go through. When you feel completely alone, when you actually, get rid of your group of friends because you recognize that group isn't going to take you where you want to go. When you get through that, and whether it's 6 months later or a year later, and you look back and you say, holy fuck, look how far I've come. Look at how kick-ass my life is now.
You do that
right now.
again?
Now when you go get groceries, they're like, oh, I'm going to, I'm getting the nice cheese, and I'm getting the prime rib. Don't look at the price tag.
Just go.
You get what you need, right?
Perfect.
When you go out, and now it's like, okay, I go out with the boys now, and now it's like, okay, I can get this round. I'm buying dinners for people, right?
Yeah,
but now you can look back and say, okay, now sweet. What's next? What's happening? And congratulate yourself when you're doing that.
Absolutely.
Recognize the good shit that you're doing.
I like that. Devin, last words. If somebody feels like they're an imposter, they need to get to where they want to go, but they're still with losers. How do they get there?
So I'm going to take it woo-woo, but I'm going to back it up with some science. If you are not familiar...
Classic Devin.
Yeah.
It's not like him at all.
I'm owning it. So if you are familiar with or not familiar with, get yourself familiar with the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza. He's a fucking incredible man. He's got a whole backstory that brought him to the place that he's at. But the thing that he taught me was your body, your physical form, follows the cues that your emotional state is in. So have you ever just thought of a hypothetical situation in your mind and kind of had a bit of an adrenaline rush?
Totally.
Right? Well, what's happening is your emotions are preparing your body to react to whatever that is. Most of the time, that shit's made up. And this is the unrecognized or undiagnosed anxieties in most people. Everybody's got this refrigerator hum anxiety that's happening. And that's because you have these consistent thought loops and patterns that have put you in this state of, I need to fight soon. I don't know when, but I need to fight. So you're always constantly at 100%. This is also, emotion comes from emotion, from our good buddy. The idea is that your emotions lead the way that your body responds. Now, why that's important is, when I am with a group of friends that aren't going to the places or aren't achieving things or whatever, and I recognize that and I know it, but I'm like, how do I break out of this? And, I don't want to lose my friends. I love my friends, whatever the fuck it is. And I start making that shift, and they start testing that shift because I'm incongruent to the person they know me to be. They know me to be also a loser. So when I try to be a winner, they're like, you're not a winner, Mr. fucking, look at you, fancy winner guy. That's how their typical response is. And then your emotional state triggers your body to put yourself back in that state. And so more science here. If you're an overweight person, you didn't just wake up one day and go from 173 pounds to 240. That didn't happen while you were fucking sleeping. That happened over a period of time of making choices that weren't congruent with being a fit person or having a healthy body or whatever. So over time that happened. Now the same thing exists when you're trying to shift that emotional state in the imposter syndrome. So if you are in that state of constant anxiety because you know yourself you're incongruent and you're trying to make that shift and you're trying to move over and people are shit testing you, dragging you back into the mud, when you want to make that shift, it's not going to happen overnight. It happens when you start putting yourself in an emotional state of winning. And that happens from setting goals and achieving them. That happens from waking up and doing exercise. It happens from writing shit down and maybe, getting a date or whatever the fuck it is. It happens from all those external measures, but we are cause and effect based people. Mm-hmm. We see cause and go, that's the reason why I feel. So it's because I have a girlfriend that I feel like I can achieve these things. But really, you achieving those things was an action of you being accountable to your desires and your actions reflecting your desires. So if you want to lose weight, meaning you want to go from the loser circle to the winner circle, you're going to have to consistently reprogram not just your mind, but your very fucking cells and DNA to make that shift. And that starts with holding yourself accountable to the things you're saying. If you say you're X, then be X. Don't think about what it looks like to be X and then make it look like you're X. Do the things that make you X. And when you do that, that pulls you out of that. But it happens over a long period of time consistently.
I have two things. One, and just really quickly in response to that, it's a very perfect example of future proves past. Right? And you make a decision, I make a decision today, right, that I want to generate another stream of income. Right, that decision today, a year from now, I have that second stream of income. In the future, I am achieving this. However, my decision, the fact that I'm now achieving this, that I now have the second source of income, started when I made a decision to make it happen.
Okay. And it would make it a lot easier if you put yourself, your body and your mind in the emotional state of having already achieved it.
Oh, 100%. That's how you're going to get in alignment and be able to start manifesting.
So I'm going to dumb this down for the people that are listening that are like me. So what Devin said was, fuck what anybody else thinks, and be accountable to your fucking self.
For sure.
If you're not gonna do the fucking work, and this is coming from you, do the fucking work.
Even if you don't want to do the work.
Even if you don't want to do the work, do the fucking work.
If you want to achieve something, do the fucking work.
Listen, if you're an imposter, and I'm going to tell you this through experience, okay? I still feel like an imposter, right? The way I get over that is I'm still just fucking me, right? I don't give a fuck what anybody thinks. What I say, what I do, I'm me. Right? Either you like it or you don't. I don't give a fuck. Right? So you have to take the good with the bad and say, listen, you're always going to get bad no matter what. This feedback's always going to be there, but you are always going to get good too. You have to realize which one you feed off of.
And pick your mentors, man. Like if you meet somebody who has everything you want to do, take a fucking hint. Shake hands like they do, walk like they do, talk like they do, dress like they do.
And drop the fucking losers.
If they eat eggs for breakfast, fucking eat egg for breakfast. If they skip breakfast, skip breakfast.
Yeah.
Try all
Get
the
into
things.
it.
Yeah.
Because honestly, everything, if it has happened once, it is duplicatable.
Your life is a fucking walking experiment. And I would argue that experiment on all the things. The way that you articulate your words, the way that you carry yourself, the way that you interact with people, the way that you try to manifest accomplishments in your life, all of it. It's all a fucking experiment. And if you try a thing and the thing doesn't get you said desired result, take a look at it and go, why? And then adjust course and continue down that path.
I like it.
And that makes you the person that you want to be.
Perfect. I'm going to wrap this up, guys. Anything else?
I'm going to just do one piece here just quickly.
Sure.
This is going back to earlier when Devin was talking about the roles of masculinity and femininity. I really, truly, 100% believe that there is an opportunity in our world right now. I personally believe that there's a knee-jerk reaction from history when it's been very male dominant and a very I'm going to say shadow masculine ran world. With
violence. No, it wasn't shadow masculine.
Violence,
it was all masculine run.
Violence and and just lots of violence, right? And we haven't actually lived in a world. And I think right now we're experiencing a bit of a knee-jerk reaction into guys are being encouraged to be more feminine.
There's a pendulum swing the other direction.
You don't want to show up like, oh, your dad who left, or this person, your dad's in jail, or every major dictator throughout history as being a dude, right? I think there's a knee-jerk reaction right now into guys being encouraged to be more feminine. Is that healthy? In my opinion, it's not. However, there's a balance point in the middle, and I think that we have an opportunity as a culture, as a society right now, to choose to make responsible decisions for myself. If I am choosing to be responsible, and Devin's choosing to be responsible, and Parnell's choosing to be responsible, and everybody else individually in the world is choosing to be responsible, a whole lot of the fucking problems in this world go away.
I like it. We good?
That sounds
Look,
good to me.
I'm gonna send this off. Listen, motherfuckers, if you want to achieve your fucking goals, be accountable to your fucking self. You're the only person you need to fucking come back and say, listen, I either did it or I didn't do it. And if you didn't do it, you need to take the fucking steps you need to do to achieve that fucking goal. Be responsible to the fucking community around you. Be accountable to yourself. I'm out this bitch.
Let's do it. There you go.